So kind of inadvertently today, it's another medical story off the back here. But again, this is one of those stories, and we've talked so much, I think, back and forth about things like Ozempic and whatever, which we'll get to in a minute. But then I saw this the other day, and I thought to myself, this seems to be or should be a bigger story than it is, and it concerns a flu virus and the vaccine that you can get for it, which up until now, of course, you know the sort of drill. In the fall, flu vaccine becomes available, people go, you get your shot, and you're good to go, and it changes every year. And then the story that I saw suggests that now, doesn't suggest this is actually going to be happening, you'll be able to get the flu vaccine without having to get a shot through a nasal vaccine. So I wanted to find out more. Dr. Chris Labos, a regular here on CJAD, cardiologist with a degree in epidemiology, is on the line. So Chris, let me begin by asking, first of all, I saw this in the U.S. Will this or is this available in Canada?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the flu mist, the nasal spray vaccine is available in Canada. It has been available for many years, actually. And the evidence suggests that it is roughly comparable in terms of efficacy to the injectable vaccine. There are certain specific groups of patients who shouldn't get it, and we can talk about that in a second. I think the main reason why it's not as popular as it probably should be, given you think, hey, it's a needleless vaccine, is because it's not covered by the government. The government won't pay for it. And if there's one thing that we have proven time and time again with human nature, is that when you ask people to pay for a vaccine out of pocket, they invariably don't do it. And so people will always just default to the injectable vaccine.
So let me just go back and clarify. I thought the big deal here was the fact that it hadn't been available. Now, again, I saw this in the U.S. You're saying it's been available here for some time as a flu vaccine, nasally?
Yeah, it's just that you had to go and ask for it specifically at the pharmacy, and you had to pay for it. Now, if you have private insurance, the private insurance would cover it, but that's the problem. And so if you just make an appointment and go to like the CLFC or one of these vaccine clinics that pops up in the fall, they're going to give you what is the government vaccine, which is the injectable ones. There are certain groups of people who shouldn't get this flu mist vaccine, and that's maybe the reason why the government doesn't want to favor it. So it hasn't been studied in the very elderly population. So if you're over the age of 60, there isn't a lot of data on this nasal spray vaccine because it was initially designed for kids. Because you can imagine kids don't like getting needles. So that was the first conception of it. So they've never pushed the upper age limit of people included in the study. So you have no data on over 60, which is why it's not indicated for people over the age of 60. So that's part of the reason why the government doesn't pay for it. Also, if you are immunocompromised, because it's a live vaccine, there is always the worry and the risk that the virus could become activated and make you sick. So you wouldn't give it to somebody who is immunocompromised or to somebody who has some form of lung disease, because there's always the worry that they wouldn't be able to breathe it into their lungs and to get absorbed. So there's a few reasons why people wouldn't want to get it, but the main one is that it's just not covered.
All right, so not covered, and again, so as you said, over the age of 60, maybe think twice, you're still probably better off getting the original flu vaccine injected, right?
Exactly,
okay. Yeah. The other story I wanted to touch on really quickly is this sort of Ozempic story. We've talked about this a few different times. The fact that, yes, it's very expensive. People are finding their way around it, getting getting scripts online, etc. And then I see that Eli Lilly, so Ozempic, right, which is the Novo Nordisk drug. Right. Eli Lilly has a competitor. It is called Zepbound. I understand it's been around for a while. But the big story this week was they're dropping the price. So this is turning into a battle now, like a consumer battle over how much do you want to pay for two drugs that basically will end up doing the same thing. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, and I mean, ironically enough, the Eli Lilly one is actually a little bit more effective. When it's been compared head-to-head, tirzepatide, which is the scientific name for it, has actually outperformed semaglutide, which is Ozempic. So you actually get a little bit more weight loss. So I think you are seeing these two companies sort of see where the ultimate price point is. An interesting curveball is going to be that in Canada, but not in the U.S., the patent for Ozempic is going to expire as of January. So I don't think we really know what's going to happen to the price. It is very feasible and very easy to imagine the prices of both of these things coming down because, no company is going to let the other one claim the, complete market share. So I think these drugs are going to start becoming a lot more affordable to people who are paying for it out of pocket.
Wait a second. How does that work? So if it comes off patent protection in Canada, anybody, so you're talking basically about a generic equivalent that anybody could start selling. Is that the idea?
That's exactly right. And I mean, the story why it's coming off patent is bizarre and hilarious. Oh? It is basically that Novo Nordisk forgot to file a renewal of their patent. And it literally appears to have been that. They're basically going to let the patent lapse out of, it would appear to be a bureaucratic error. So As of January, the patent is gone. And if somebody is able to step up and do a generic equivalent, you might start seeing that in the Canadian market.
I wonder who lost a job over that. But that aside, the Eli Lilly one now, the Zepbound, I saw that they dropped their price in the U.S. to $4.99 a month. This is U.S. dollars. I don't know what it is here. But if, in fact, Ozempic comes off patent, you could still buy the Eli Lilly one in Canada?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, both are available. Both can be prescribed. Again, it's not covered unless you have private insurance, and even then it's a bit dicey. But, yeah, that's really been the big issue here. It's not availability. It is coverage. And, people who have the money can pay for it, and people who don't have the money, unfortunately, don't. That's why anything that regards price becomes very, very, becomes very, very interesting, because it means, you might start having a broader swath of the population of the population that can actually access the drugs now.
But what about the idea here? A while ago, we had someone talking about the fact that there was a push to try to get the government to cover this. Are we any further on that you know of?
No. I know there has been a letter writing campaign that was happening over the summer, and there's been a push. But, the government agencies in charge of this don't tend to be very quick in making these types of decisions, especially for something that is probably going to end up being very, very expensive for the drug program. But we'll have to see. I know there is a consistent push from both the companies and from the medical establishment to recognize that these are valid medications that probably should be covered.
The one other thing I wanted to bring up just based on this is, what we've also wondered, this is kind of a miracle cure for so many people, right? We know that it's effective. We know that it works. It's expensive, at least for now. But then there's the issue of people saying, well, there must be a downside somewhere. And then I heard something about kidney function, whatever. What's attached to any of these weight loss drugs, if anything, so far that we do know about?
So the big risk factor is, number one, anybody who has a history of thyroid cancer or a family history of thyroid cancer should not take these medications because of an early safety signal. So that's number one. There has been some reports of a form of eye disease that has been sort of manifested in some patients, so we'll see if that ultimately pans out. The thyroid cancer thing may or may not be true. There was a risk of pancreatitis in some of the early studies. That, too, has not really panned out. So as we use this more and more, you start to get more and more reassured, because if there was a significant safety signal, it would be making manifest. So there are side effects. The big one, and the one that really limits it for people, is the gastrointestinal side effects, the nausea and the vomiting that comes with the early doses. And that really is limiting for a lot of people. So there are limitations to it. There are side effects. As of now, there doesn't really appear to be any major problems with it. And when people say this is a new drug, I always like to point out, it really isn't, because this class of medication has been around for, over 25 years at this point. There were previous versions of these medications that were in use before that didn't really show any major problems. It's just that we talk about Ozempic because it was the one that was most effective, and it was a weekly dose as opposed to a daily injection, which was just unpalatable for a large number of people.
By the way, with respect to cost in Canada, how much does this stuff go for a month, do you know?
About $400 a month.
Okay.
There's been some fluctuations in the price, but you're talking in that price range. It's like hundreds of dollars per month, not thousands.
Okay. Dr. Labos, appreciate it. Always do. By the way, can I just ask as an aside here, how's the work on the new book coming?
Now that the wedding and the house buying is complete, I'm going to sit down and actually start focusing on the sequel to the book again.